The Galactic Council erupted into chaos as a shocking video flashed across the main view screen. High Counselor Marek slammed his fist on the console, silencing the commotion. The footage, transmitted by a remote scouting vessel, revealed the unthinkable. A human petting a Ragnax, the most vicious apex predator known to the Council. Marek's eyes narrowed as he studied the recording. The human, later identified as Jacob Tucker, fearlessly approached the beast, reaching out to stroke its head. The Ragnax, a creature infamous for its venomous bite and uncontrollable rage, nuzzled against Jacob's hand, its deadly fangs mere inches from his flesh. "This cannot be," Marek growled, his voice echoing through the chamber. "If humans possess the ability to tame even the most savage of beasts, they pose a grave threat to the delicate balance of power in the galaxy." The Council buzzed with nervous chatter, the implications of the video sinking in. Marek called for immediate action, assembling an elite team to investigate the humans and their homeworld. He would lead the delegation himself, determined to uncover the truth behind the humans' apparent sway over apex predators. As the counselors filed out of the chamber, an air of unease hung heavy in the air. The fate of the galaxy now rested on the Council's ability to assess the human threat and neutralize it before it was too late. For if the humans could bend the galaxy's most dangerous creatures to their will, there was no telling what else they might be capable of. As the Galactic Council's sleek spacecraft descended through Earth's atmosphere, High Counselor Marek steeled himself for the diplomatic challenges that lay ahead. The vessel touched down on the grounds of the United Nations headquarters in New York City, where a contingent of Earth's leaders awaited the alien delegation. Marek emerged from the ship, his imposing figure clad in the ceremonial robes of his office. He was flanked by Dr. Zara Solaris and a retinue of council guards. The human representatives, led by the Secretary General of the United Nations, stepped forward to greet them. "High Counselor Marek, we welcome you to Earth," the Secretary General said, extending his hand in a gesture of goodwill. "We come in peace, seeking to understand the extraordinary abilities of your species," Marek replied, grasping the human's hand firmly. As the two groups engaged in tense negotiations, it became clear that Earth's governments were wary of the Council's intentions. They sought assurances that the human delegates, including Jacob Tucker, would be treated fairly and return safely. Marek, recognizing the need for cooperation, agreed to the humans' terms. With the agreement reached, Jacob and a select group of human volunteers boarded the Council's ship, preparing for the journey to the Council's headquarters. As the vessel ascended through the atmosphere, Jacob gazed out at the receding Earth, wondering what challenges and discoveries awaited him among the stars. Upon arriving at the sprawling space station, the human delegates were immediately subjected to a battery of tests and interrogations. Dr. Solaris and her team of xenobiologists worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of human physiology, focusing on the unique enzymes that granted them immunity to predator venoms. As news of the humans' abilities spread, desperate pleas for assistance poured in from Council member worlds besieged by apex predator attacks. Marek, seeing an opportunity to both aid his fellow members and further study human capabilities, approached Jacob with a proposition. "Mr. Tucker," Marek said, his voice resonating with authority, "the Council requires your unique skills. The inhabitants of planet Valoria are under siege by a pack of vicious razor cats. We believe your abilities could be instrumental in resolving this crisis." Jacob, driven by a desire to help and to prove the value of human cooperation, readily agreed. Accompanied by a team of human volunteers and Dr. Solaris, he set out for Valoria, determined to face the challenges that awaited him on the alien world. As their ship descended through Valoria's atmosphere, Jacob caught his first glimpse of the planet's sprawling cities and lush, untamed wilderness. The human team disembarked, their senses assaulted by the exotic sights, sounds, and smells of the alien environment. Guided by local authorities, Jacob and his team ventured into the heart of the Razorcat territory. The predators, with their sleek, muscular bodies and razor-sharp claws, prowled the dense underbrush, their eyes glinting with primal ferocity. Jacob stepped forward, his movements calm and deliberate. He reached out with his mind, projecting a sense of peace and understanding towards the Razorcats. Slowly, cautiously, The beasts emerged from the shadows, drawn to Jacob's presence. As the humans worked to calm and relocate the predators, Dr. Solaris observed in awe, meticulously documenting every aspect of the interaction. She found herself increasingly drawn to Jacob, fascinated not only by his abilities, but also by his compassionate nature. Unbeknownst to the human team, dark forces were conspiring against their efforts. In the gleaming towers of Apex Biotech, CEO Zorn Grendel seethed with anger as reports of the human success reached him. The relocation of the Razor Cats threatened his company's profits and his dreams of domination. Grendel summoned his most trusted lieutenants, his face contorted with rage. "These humans must be stopped," he growled, his fist slamming against the polished surface of his desk. "I want them discredited, undermined, and driven from Valoria. Do whatever it takes." As Jacob and his team continued their vital work, unaware of the gathering storm, they stumbled upon evidence that would rock the very foundations of Valorian society. In the depths of the wilderness, they discovered secret breeding facilities where Apex Biotech had been illegally rearing and releasing Razor Cats to create demand for their weapons. The humans knew they had to act fast, gathering the proof they needed to expose Apex Biotech's nefarious schemes. But with powerful enemies now aligned against them, Jacob and his team found themselves in a race against time, fighting not only to save the Valorian ecosystem, but also to preserve the fragile trust between humanity and the Galactic Council. Jacob wiped the sweat from his brow as he and Zara carefully cataloged the evidence they'd gathered from Apex Biotech's hidden facilities. The sun-drenched clearing where they worked buzzed with the sounds of alien insects and distant Razor Cat calls. "This is damning," Zara muttered, her eyes widening as she scanned through files on her datapad. "Grendel's been authorizing genetic modifications to make the Razor Cats more aggressive." Jacob nodded grimly. "We need to get this to the council immediately, but Grendel's got his claws deep in there. Will they even listen?" Before Zara could respond, her comm unit crackled to life. High Counselor Merrick's stern voice filled the air. "Dr. Solaris, Mr. Tucker, the council has decided to conduct an on-site assessment of the situation on Valoria. We'll be arriving within the hour." As the council's sleek ship touched down in a nearby field, Jacob and Zara exchanged worried glances. They watched as Merrick emerged, followed by a cluster of other counselors, and Zorn Grendel himself. Grendel's eyes narrowed as he spotted Jacob. "So, this is the human who claims he can control our apex predators," he sneered. "I look forward to seeing this ability in action." The group made their way to a nearby Razor Cat enclosure. Jacob led the way, his senses on high alert. Something felt off. The cat seemed more agitated than usual. Suddenly, a thunderous roar split the air. A massive Razor Cat, its muscles rippling beneath sleek fur, burst through the fence. It charged straight at the group, eyes locked on Grendel. Time seemed to slow. Jacob saw the terror freeze Grendel in place, saw Merrick reach for a weapon that wouldn't fire in time. Without hesitation, Jacob leapt forward, placing himself between the CEO and the rampaging beast. He reached out with his mind, projecting calm and understanding. The Razor Cat skidded to a halt, its chest heaving. Jacob slowly extended his hand, murmuring soothing words. The creature's eyes, filled with unnatural rage, gradually softened. It pressed its head against Jacob's palm, a low purr rumbling in its throat. As Jacob guided the Razor Cat back to its enclosure, he heard the rapid-fire click of Zara's camera. She'd captured the entire incident. Merrick stepped forward, his expression a mix of awe and concern. "Mr. Tucker, your abilities are indeed remarkable, but this incident raises serious questions about the safety of these creatures and the potential weaponization of your skills." Grendel, having regained his composure, seized the opportunity. "Exactly. These humans pose a grave threat to galactic security. We must restrict their access to other worlds immediately." Jacob opened his mouth to protest, but Zara beat him to it. "Before you make any decisions, counselors, I think you should see this." She held up her datapad, displaying the evidence they'd collected on Apex Biotech's illegal activities. Merrick's eyes widened as he scrolled through the files. "These are serious allegations, Mr. Grendel. We'll need to conduct a full investigation. Grendel's face twisted with rage. You can't possibly believe these fabrications. This is nothing but a ploy by the humans to discredit me and gain influence in the council. As the argument intensified, Jacob felt a gentle tug on his sleeve. He turned to find one of the junior human team members, eyes wide with excitement. Jacob, you need to see this, she whispered, holding out her own data pad. The video of you saving Grendel, it's gone viral across the galaxy. People are calling you a hero. Jacob looked from the data pad to the arguing counselors, a glimmer of hope rising in his chest. Perhaps this was the turning point they'd been waiting for. 4. As the debate raged on, Jacob's attention was drawn to a flashing alert on Zara's datapad. His eyes widened as he scanned the incoming message. Dr. Solaris, we've got a problem, he whispered urgently. The genetics lab just reported anomalous readings from their latest batch of samples. Zara excused herself from the group and huddled with Jacob, her brow furrowed as she examined the data. This can't be right, she muttered. These gene sequences, they're unlike anything I've ever seen. Their quiet conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a breathless junior scientist. Dr. Solaris, Mr. Tucker, you need to see this immediately, he panted, gesturing for them to follow. As they hurried to the lab, Jacob felt a growing sense of unease. The corridors seemed unnaturally quiet, the air thick with tension. When they arrived, the lead geneticist, Dr. Vex, greeted them with a grim expression. We've made a disturbing discovery, Vex said, pulling up a holographic display. The genetic modifications in the razor cats, they're not just engineered. They contain DNA from an unknown species. Zara leaned in, her eyes narrowing as she studied the complex strands. This is far beyond Apex Biotech's capabilities. Where did they get this? Jacob's mind raced, piecing together fragments of information. The Prahani, he breathed. I've heard whispers about them. A reclusive species with advanced bioengineering. But how? His words were cut short by a commotion outside. They rushed to the window to see Grendel being escorted to a council transport, flanked by security officers. The CEO's face was a mask of fury as he was led away. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red emergency lights bathed the corridors in an eerie glow. A computerized voice echoed through the speakers. Biohazard detected. Containment protocols initiated. Jacob and Zara exchanged horrified glances. The Doomsday Protocol, Zara whispered. Grendel must have triggered it. As chaos erupted around them, Jacob spotted a familiar face in the crowd. Raina, the station's Prahani scientist. Her alien features were etched with concern as she approached. We don't have much time, Raina said, her voice low and urgent. The virus Grendel released, it's designed to target human DNA. We need to act fast if we're going to stop it. Jacob nodded grimly, his grit hardening. Tell me what you need me to do. As Raina led them deeper into the facility, Jacob could feel the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The fate of humanity in this sector now rested in their hands, and the clock was ticking. Ticking. They raced through winding corridors, the facility's alarms blaring in their ears. The virus is spreading rapidly, Raina explained as they hurried. It's targeting the genetic markers unique to humans. We need to reach the main lab to synthesize an antidote. Jacob's mind reeled. But how? We don't have time to develop a vaccine from scratch. Zara's eyes lit up with realization. The Prahani DNA. If we can isolate the right sequences, we might be able to create a temporary immunization. They burst into the lab, immediately setting to work. Jacob assisted as best he could, but his lack of scientific expertise left him feeling frustratingly helpless. He watched anxiously as Zara and Raina bent over complex equipment, their hands moving with practiced efficiency. Suddenly, the lab's security screens flashed to life. Jacob's heart sank as he saw Grendel being escorted onto a council transport, surrounded by armed guards. But something was wrong. The CEO's face bore a triumphant smirk, not the expression of a defeated man. Before Jacob could voice his concerns, the entire station shuddered. Emergency klaxons shrieked to life, drowning out the already deafening alarms. What's happening? Jacob shouted over the cacophony. Raina's fingers flew across a nearby console. "It's impossible," she gasped. "Someone's activated the station's defense systems. We're completely locked down." The lab's doors slammed shut, sealing them inside. On the security feeds, chaos unfolded. Armed figures in unfamiliar uniforms swarmed the council chambers, their weapons trained on the assembled delegates. "Prahani separatists," Raina hissed, her alien features contorting with anger. "They must have been working with Grendel all along." Jacob's mind raced. The virus, the separatists, Grendel's smug expression. It was all connected. They'd walked right into a trap. A new face appeared on the screens, a stern-looking Prahani with elaborate facial markings. "Attention, council members and human delegates," the figure intoned. "We are the true path, guardians of Prahani purity. Your misguided attempts at galactic cooperation end today. Surrender our genetic repository or face extinction." As if to emphasize the point, a shimmering energy field sprang to life around the council chambers. Jacob recognized the technology, an experimental force field, impenetrable to conventional weapons. "We're cut off," Zara said, her face pale. "The human delegation, the council, they're all trapped in there with Grendel and the other Apex biotech prisoners." Jacob's fist clenched. They had to do something, but what? He was no soldier, no genius scientist. He was just a man, hopelessly out of his depth in a galaxy gone mad. A commotion on the security feed drew their attention. One of the Apex biotech prisoners had lunged at a guard, desperation lending strength to his movements. In the ensuing struggle, the guard's weapon discharged, sending a bolt of energy ricocheting through the chamber. Without thinking, Jacob sprinted for the lab's door. "I have to help them!" "Jacob, no!" Zara cried, but it was too late. He'd already overridden the lock, racing towards the council chambers. He arrived to find chaos. The force field shimmered menacingly, trapping friend and foe alike. Inside, the prisoner and guard still grappled, while the separatists shouted orders and threats. Jacob's eyes locked with the lead separatist. In that moment of shared recognition, Jacob knew he'd made a terrible mistake. The Prahani's weapon swung towards him, energy crackling along its barrel. Time seemed to slow. Jacob saw the blast leave the weapon, felt the searing heat as it struck his chest. He was falling, darkness clouding his vision. The last thing he heard before consciousness fled was Zara's anguished scream. Zara knelt beside Jacob's motionless form, her hands shaking as she assessed his injuries. The energy blast had left a charred hole in his chest, his vital signs fading rapidly. "We need to get him to the medical bay," she insisted, fighting to keep her voice steady. Raina shook her head grimly. "There's no time. The virus is still spreading, and now the separatists. We need a solution that addresses everything." Zara's mind raced, possibilities and consequences flashing through her thoughts. Then, like a bolt of lightning, an idea struck. It was risky, potentially catastrophic, but it might be their only chance. "The gene therapy," she whispered. "If we combine it with the Prahani DNA..." Raina's eyes widened. "You can't be serious. The potential side effects are better than certain death," Zara finished. She met the Prahani scientist's gaze, dedication etched in every line of her face. "Will you help me?" For a long moment, Raina hesitated. Then, with a curt nod, she sprang into action. Together, they carried Jacob's limp form back to the lab, every second feeling like an eternity. As Zara prepared the experimental treatment, her hands steady despite the turmoil in her heart, she knew she was about to change Jacob's life forever. She only hoped he would forgive her for the choice she was making. "I'm sorry, Jacob," she whispered, pressing the hypo-spray to his neck. "But I can't lose you. Not now. Not ever." The device hissed as it delivered its payload, rewriting Jacob's genetic code on a fundamental level. Now all they could do was wait and pray that the man who emerged would still be the Jacob they knew and loved.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.